Hey guys, Josh Mills here with Yellow Dog Flyfishing, sitting down with Jack Porter on FAQs for Christmas Island.
So I know Christmas Island's a long way away. What does the travel look like? How do I get there?
It's a good mission to get there. You know, you got to get to Hawaii from the mainland here. So you fly into the island of Oahu. Try to get there. You know, usually on that Saturday or Sunday. Being that Fiji flight, the next leg, you have a little overnight or a couple of nights in Hawaii. Hop on that Fiji flight, and then on that Tuesday morning, usually the flight's about midday, so you're at the airport, not super early, but like 10 o'clock. And, get your duty-free stuff, everything's ready for the week, and hop on that Fiji Air flight on that Tuesday.
So first I get to Hawaii, I overnight there, and then flight the next day to Christmas Island.
Yeah, you wanna do an overnight just so you're not trying to cram it in, because if something happens, then you're not gonna miss that Fiji flight. Because that flight, it's once a week. It's only on a Tuesday, and if you miss that flight, you're out of fishing for the rest of the week.
Yeah. So you recommend get there a day or two early. Make sure you make that flight, or you're not going.
Totally.
So for that second leg, when I need to go from Hawaii down to Christmas Island, is there someone who can help me book that, or is there a specific airline? How do I get that locked in?
Yeah, there is a specific travel company that we started working with right when the island reopened a little over a year ago, and it's a company called Ultimate Vacations, and a gal named Vanessa Vartanian, she's super knowledgeable and helpful managing. She works with a rep from the Fiji Airways airline company, and it's a little challenging to do on your own sometimes because of the date and time difference, because when you leave Hawaii, it's on a Tuesday, but you land in Christmas Island on that Wednesday, so it's because you're going over the date line. You basically can't get it wrong, or else you're not fishing.
So it's worth it. Use her, get the right flight. Don't worry about it.
She's amazing.
Cool.
Use her.
All right, the ever important question: when is the best time to go to Christmas Island?
Yes, that question is so important when we field these calls and people have interest in Christmas Island. It's a lot different than some of our flagship Caribbean locations where they have hurricane season, and maybe they don't try to get people to go during that time. The cool thing about Christmas Island is it's 3 degrees north of the equator, so therefore there's less storms. There's no cyclones. They get rain and weather, but it's never something that's going to shut down the fishery. And the answer is really simple. You can really go whenever it fits best for your schedule.
So it's a year-round fishery. It's not like some species are there certain times of year. Everything's there all the time, and the weather's generally consistent.
Generally consistent weather, and the fish species do not really move. They're there all the time.
Yeah. So whenever it works for you, that's the best time to go.
That's the best time to book, yeah.
Cool.
What else is on your mind?
So do the lodges have equipment for me to use if I don't want to travel with all my stuff, or maybe I don't own it?
The lodges don't really provide any gear. Everything needs to be brought with you from when you leave your house.
Okay.
Including all equipment, everything. You cannot get any flies. Some of the guides may have some flies that they have carried over from years past, and they'll have a small selection. I would definitely not rely on them for that. Be prepared to bring everything you need for 6 days of fishing.
Yeah. So the stuff they might have is more backup, emergency use if something breaks.
Right.
Bring everything.
Mostly on like flies. If there was a certain fly that you didn't maybe you didn't have that the guide wanted you to use, he might have it. But I'll tell you that there's no rods or reels that like a backup. So having that, your normal setup with an extra spare rod and reel.
Yeah,
for sure.
So what rods should I bring to Christmas Island? I'm going for a week. I want to catch everything there is. What should I show up with?
The rods that are really important and key out there, first off, is an 8-weight. It's primarily a bone fishery. That's probably the most fish species in the inner lagoon and even on the outer lagoon in certain areas. So, 7 or 8, I personally like an 8-weight or even a 9-weight sometimes, because a 9-weight is for multiple species, and you can also target triggerfish while you're bone fishing. So if you're fishing a big shrimp and you have an opportunity to cast at a triggerfish while you're bone fishing, you don't need to switch out rods.
Yeah.
And going into that, a 10-weight for triggerfish is ideal. Great in the wind. There is wind. We're fishing in the ocean. So it's never like super flat all the time. And then you got your trevally species in your GTs, which can be pretty good size, and you need to have a powerful rod. and I would personally bring an 11 weight rod.
An 11. So 8 weight for bonefish and triggerfish in certain scenarios, 10 weight for triggers specifically, and then an 11 or 12 for the big GTs.
Yeah,
either
exactly.
one. Sweet.
Yeah.
What are the main species that you're going to target in Christmas Island?
Main species really are, your bonefish, triggerfish, and trevally. A lot of people have questions about the giant trevally. They are there. There's several different species of trevally too. There's striped trevally. There's bluefin. Those are pretty common. A lot of people like targeting those. They're a little bit more user-friendly. The GTs can be challenging. But a lot of people are there. I get a lot of questions about bonefish. And not a lot of people know too much about the trigger fishing until they go. Or I've talked to them on the phone and really get them fired up about it because it's some of the funnest fishing that you can do over the course of 6 days while you're there.
That's cool. What do you like about trigger fishing?
The trigger fishing, they're technical, they're very spooky. They require a certain style of stripping your fly. They're mostly eating shrimp and crabs. They see really well, and they really play the current. There's a component of the fish that they're very strong. They have, if you've ever seen the mouth of a triggerfish, they're like human teeth, and they can basically take any size hook and just smash it and destroy the fly. So not only feeding them and getting them to come and look at your fly, but hooking them and keeping them on is really, really challenging. It's closely related to like permit fishing, where am I going to land this, and let alone can I get him to eat it?
Yeah.
So it's
the challenge, the hunt, like you're just going in your mind like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change?
The hunt is incredible. The number of shots you can get with a good cast over the course of 6 days is unbelievable. You can get 12 shots a day.
That's cool. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a good chunk. So times that times 6, and you're getting up there on shots of triggers, and hopefully by then you've at least hooked one or landed one.
Yeah. So GTs are at the top of most traveling anglers, bucket list or species list. Everyone wants to catch one. Would you say Christmas Island is a great GT destination? Do you have a lot of chances? Do you have high chances of landing one? What should I expect from that perspective?
Yeah, GTs are very much there in the fishery, and they're prominent. They're just not somewhere like the Seychelles where you're going to get 7 shots a day with a good cast. Tides kind of play a role. Some people have their opinions and reservations on which tide is best. They like a neap tide or a spring tide. Really, what I found out, talking with some of the lodge managers when I was down there was, there's really never a bad time. It's time on the water. And some people will say spring tide's better, pushes more water up on the flats, which pushes bait fish on the flats. Could increase your chances, but they do really well on a neap tide as well. The number game, though, it's something that keep your expectations realistic, and you might get a shot at one, you might see one, you might start running and sprinting as fast as you can across the flat, trying to get your fly in there. But as soon as you hear them or see them, by the time you get there and get your fly on them, they could be in 30 feet of water, gone. Yeah.
So realistic expectation would be to see them, but not necessarily land one, or you're looking for 1 or 2 in the week landed.
Absolutely. Each week, we have travelers, during the peak times, generally in the winter time, because people want to leave North America and they want to head down there. There's 1 or 2 or even more caught, throughout the course of a week with a group of anglers.
Can you describe some of the fishing scenarios and what kind of a normal day looks like? Are you fishing from a boat? Are you fishing mangroves? Are you fishing flats, blue water? What am I getting into, when I'm fishing in Christmas Island? Yeah,
when you're a typical day fishing in Christmas Island, you start the week generally by fishing the lagoon flats. And you get accustomed to some of the fish. Maybe you haven't been in the saltwater flats fishing in a couple of months or maybe even a year or 2. So you want to start there, familiarize yourself with being back in the saltwater. So that generally most of the lodges will start you out on the inner lagoon, where there's a series of these great pancake flats, bonefish, triggerfish, and the trevally species are there. Over the course of the week, and depending on which lodge you're staying at, they'll have kind of a set program of what they're going to do, and they'll either you'll get a lagoon day and then you'll rotate through, and then there's actually the outer reef too, which is called Korean wreck, which is very famous and on a lot of people's list. And typically, you want to get out there just to see it because it's all walkway. You're on the sandy beach, and they can also do the Huff Dam as well, which is kind of what they consider the backcountry, and it's basically like this coral rim that wraps around this like lagoon system, and you're just sight fishing, walking this rim and casting to all the species. There's not any more species in the lagoon, Huff Dam, or the outer reef.
Are you mostly on foot during the week? Are you fishing from the boat? Are they poling you like in other flats destinations? What is that?
Most of the fishing is wade fishing, stocking, sight casting, with the exception of the outer lagoon where you are maybe targeting some blue water fish. They have a series of channels between the flats. You may be like, I want to catch GT. You might do some trolling, so you might be on the boat for part of the day or something,
Yeah.
But generally, you're on the flats on foot most of the time, most of the week.
So if you're covering the flats on foot, are you covering a bunch of miles per day? Is this a physically challenging trip? Should I like get in shape to go on this trip?
You should be ready to do a little bit of walking. You're walking slow, but you're going to average about 25,000 steps in a day.
That's a lot.
Yes, that's a good number. So, and you're not moving fast, because if you move too fast, you're going to miss your opportunities at being able to spot the fish.
For footwear, what kind of bottom are you wading on all day?
It can vary. It can be like soft sand in certain flats, or it can be, broken old coral that's snapped off. So kind of crunchy. Having proper footwear. I would probably not want to recommend like a flats booty. I would probably go with some sort of like a flat sneaker like the Sims boot, or any sort of boot with a really strong, rigid sole is something that's going to get you through the course of a week.
Yeah. So you want burly footwear that's going to be comfortable and durable, because you're on your feet all day. You don't know what you're going to step on. So each day, do you leave with your guide and your fishing partner, kind of anchor the boat, and does that allow both anglers to wade at the same time during the day?
Yeah, both things, depending on where you're at, which lodge you're going to. There's one-to-one guide at one lodge, and then sometimes it's shared guides. So if you have a shared guide, typically you'll fish, one angler will fish with the guide for a couple hours, and then they'll rotate through. The guide's pretty good about making sure you're not too far away. In the event that you do need help, he can get to you very quickly.
That's really cool. So everyone jumps on the boat in the morning, and you get dropped off in your spots, and then you get picked up and shuffled around or moved.
Yeah, so generally what they'll do is, like you said, in the morning you get dropped off, they'll push everybody out, then they'll have who's the captain of the boat. He kind of just sits there on his radio, and if they need to be moved, they'll radio in and say, hey, we need to be moved. If it's been an hour and you guys haven't seen a fish or just not enough fish, they can quickly get there. They're only about a 5 to 10 minutes away from you. So if you do need to move, but typically if you're on a good flat, you can get about 4 hours to 5 hours of fishing in. You'll have lunch in transit to the second part of your day.
Oh, wow.
And you'll meet with all those people, and it's really fun because you get to talk about your morning,
Yeah.
what you did wrong, what you
flies
want to
were
do
working
better.
and all that.
Exactly. Oh, I saw more GTs. Maybe I want to grab my GT rod because I left it on the boat. Or maybe I saw a lot of triggerfish.
Yeah.
Or instead, I caught plenty of bones this morning. I'm gonna just go for triggers and have my GT rod ready.
Yeah. So I've been on some other saltwater flats trip. It's one person fishing at a time on the bow. This is if this maximizes your time on the water and your fishing time, going to Christmas Island, because you're able to just wade all day essentially. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a great assessment, to be honest, because just because your partner or your wife or friend is getting guided, you still have that time alone. You might scratch your head and have some questions, but sometimes you don't need to have the guide right behind you telling you everything. Relatively, again, the weather's pretty clear and generally visibility is pretty good. So if you move slow enough and you're by yourself, you'll get some shots.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because usually on a flats trip, half the time you're on the bench waiting.
So both anglers are fishing, throughout the entire day.
Cool.
Jack, you've fished saltwater quite a bit. Is there anything else that you have questions about for Christmas Island?
Some destinations are more challenging than others or require maybe a more refined cast. Who is going to find success in Christmas Island? Do you need to be, more advanced? Is this beginner friendly? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, Christmas Island's a user friendly for, a novice angler. based on the sheer number of bonefish there. Casts aren't super long casts. They're anywhere from 20 to 35 feet. So if you have that in your back pocket going into your first saltwater trip, it can benefit you for sure. It's a destination that I would recommend people try out because of the numbers of fish.
Yeah. So you have a lot of opportunities, which in other fisheries is not the case.
Yeah, it can be challenging, and a lot of opportunities can often result in maybe a bigger fish because you have so many shots too.
Yeah. And like any trip, I'm sure you recommend practice before you go. I mean, bone fishing, you still have to be accurate. Any saltwater fishing, you want to be accurate. So, practicing like targets in the park, is that useful, or
Practice,
what do you tell people?
Yeah, I tell people the more practice they put in, the more value they're going to get out of their trip. If you put the time in beforehand, the results are going to be really good for you. Get your cast down at 25 feet. Have a big hula hoop, have a medium-sized hula hoop, and then a smaller loop in the middle, and just refine that and get that down to a spot. And the other thing is there's wind. We always talk about wind in the saltwater. Maybe not cast on the calmest day. Go cast into the wind, side wind, every direction you can possibly cast in, to just get better at casting, in those conditions, because those are real life conditions when you're out there.
And are there multiple lodges? Are some lodges better for certain people than others? What does that look like?
There's 3 lodges that we work with. All offer a different experience. One is extremely fishing focused. It's not necessarily you're there for the accommodations. Rooms are pretty basic. And then we have kind of middle of the road where it kind of accommodates a little bit of everything. Fishing, a little bit more comfort, nicer rooms. Then our third option is kind of takes the cake on a little bit of everything. Good food, very nice rooms, great fishing program, and not right in town either. So it's a little bit more secluded. Has a little bit more higher price point on that one, but not by much. They're all relatively in the same ballpark as pricing.
Yeah, and if I call you, you're gonna give me the realistic rundown of all of them and make sure that I go to the one that fits my budget, the experience I'm looking for, all that.
Absolutely, yeah. We're gonna walk through all 3 lodges. I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. What's important to you? Is the food important to you? Is the one-to-one guiding important to you? Is having your own boat important to you? All 3 of those lodges offer those are the differences in the 3 lodges. Yeah, also reason to book with Yellow Dog is with the fly shop we can help you build out your fly packages, all the gear you need for a trip to Christmas Island. We've met with the guides when I was there and discussed which flies they like and what they don't like, and how many flies do I need is often common. And the team here is dedicated to building out fly packages for Christmas Island, specifically for this area, and experience with multiple different varying fly rods, and tell you which ones I like. I could definitely point you in the right direction if anybody had questions on gear regarding Christmas Island.
So the shop can handle everything from flies, leaders, rods, reel. Even if you just need a new line, we've got it.
The shop can kit you out on everything you need for your upcoming trip to Christmas Island.
Cool.
Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions, please visit our website at yellowdogflyfishing.com.